Hello again, everyone. Welcome to Coach E's Mind Games, wherein we tackle sport topics with a mental and social and diversity approach. So, for today's session, we always want to highlight a specific nonprofit organization out there. So for today's video, we are highlighting Grassroots Crisis. So feel free to go ahead and reach out to them. So they offer 24-hour crisis intervention, suicide prevention, shelter, and outreach services. So feel free to go ahead and find out how you can help and donate. Okay. And again, this is brought to you by AAA Physical Therapy. So we're looking for sponsors for these events. So the first two sessions, we have been talking about Chronos system in terms of Brough and Brenner's ecological theory, that there's so many aspects involved and we just can't put things into a bubble and just say, oh, this is exactly what's going to happen. There's so many dynamics that's involved that could shift and change things. So I don't think this has been talked enough because of the last dance with the 98 Eastern Conference Bulls versus Pacers session or series. Rick Smits, and some of you guys may make fun of this, but Rick Smits, whenever he's on the court, the Bulls really had a difficult time with him. He was super efficient. He was like 8 of 9, 9 out of 10, and so on and so forth. But on games 1, 2, and 7, he was getting into foul trouble early in the first half. So I'm not going to go ahead and spread any conspiracy here, if that was rigged or what have you. But bottom line is, anytime the Bulls won, except for game 5, and I'll talk a little bit more about game 5, is that Rick Smits got into early foul trouble. And when he was playing, and I have watched I've seen the games from games 3 to 7, but I know in games 1 and 2, he got into foul trouble early, is that the Bulls had a difficult time containing him. And when he's not on the court, that's when the Bulls either made a run or able to get a bigger lead. But whenever he's playing, the Pacers were doing really well. And then, as I mentioned in game 5, Jalen Rose was suspended. That was huge because he was one another athletic individual that could go up against Jordan and Pippen. I'm not saying he's exactly the same as them, but him being absent, as I mentioned, Chris Mullin got a cut in his head because Rick Smits inadvertently elbowed him, and that really threw the Pacers lineup for a loop. And yeah, so obviously the Pacers lost big time on game 5. Now, in game 4, Pippen missed 2 free throws in the last few seconds, and then Jordan missed the game-winning 3, and this is where Reggie Miller was able to cut loose, give MJ a shove, and was open for a 3. And then MJ missed the game-winning 3 after that, and so the series was tied 2-2. But Pippen bounced back on game 7. So in the last 4 or 5 minutes, it was an ugly battle because it was game 7 and nobody could make a basket. But Pippen in about 4 minutes was able to tap the rebound, and then was able to make a jumper. And then about a minute or 2 after that, Pippen was able to make or connect with a hook shot on the right side of the baseline. And now I can't remember if he made the free throw or not. But these are huge plays by Pip. So he was able to go ahead and bounce back with that horrendous 2 free throws missed in Game 4. Now, MJ missed 3 shots in Game 6 and a turnover in the last minute or so, the last 70 seconds or so. And I'm not saying this just to go and point out what his faults are, but we need to go ahead and be as fair as possible. Because if this is LeBron James that did that, I'm sure he would have been given bigger grunt of how he messed up the last 60, 70 seconds. And yeah, MJ was mortal that day, that night. He missed 3 shots, and everything was out of sync, and so on and so forth. So you can go ahead and identify that Jordan really wanted to win the game. And that's something that we admire about him. But at the same time, there will be games wherein this is the outcome. And I'm just thinking, if that was Kobe, if that was Jordan, if that was Magic or Bird, who had a terrible game, especially in the last minute of the game, I don't know if they would have treated him, if they would have treated him the same way or worse or what have you. Okay, so these are things to go ahead and consider for that specific series. Now, let's go back to Rick Smits and let's move on to the potential if Michael Jordan did not retire. These are things that I do not know has been conversed in one shape or form. Horace Grant was still part of the 94 Bulls team. And I'm not sure how Cartwright, Longley, Wennington would have fared against Hakeem. And again, Horace Grant would have been a big part of helping out a little bit. But this was Pippen's MVP season. And I do not understand how come Pippen never won Defensive Player of the Year. I'm super confused about that. He's so good defensively. So Chuck Daly called him and Jordan his Dobermans, meaning they just lock you up. So it's just a travesty that Pippen never won Defensive Player of the Year award. I understand it's always all first-team defense for years and years, but still, it's still a shame that's the case. Now, I would have picked the Bulls winning over the Rockets in '94, and they would have won 4 straight championships. But '95 Bulls, that could be an issue if it's almost exactly the same lineup. Because the problem here now is Clyde Drexler is part of the team. And how about injuries? This is 5-6 years coming into of deep playoff run upon deep playoff run. And if recent memory would go ahead and identify that, we've got the Golden State Warriors not winning through and through in spite of they are the favorite. And obviously, again, just if you would identify from the Last Dance, egos really get into play. So I don't know what it would be like with that during this time. And Hakeem was absolutely a beast during this time frame. And then Bill Cartwright has been, I think he has already retired by this time. And you have Luke Longley and Will Perdue. Ugh. Yeah, Hakeem would have been unstoppable if they met. And one thing I've realized, I hardly see Jordan really pick up players when they're down on the floor or what have you. So one of the games that I was watching in the 95-96 season, they played against Houston Rockets. And he seems to defer. I'm not going to say to defer, but he was respectful of Hakeem's game. And during that game, I think Clyde Drexler fell down twice, and Jordan picked it up. And I understand Jordan was so upset or felt disrespected that people are saying that Clyde's on the same level as MJ. But if they met again during the season, and again, this is deep playoff run upon deep playoff run, you can easily see injuries coming into play. And there's no such thing as load management back then. So without Rodman, without Horace Grant, I'm sure the Rockets would have won. Now, here's my question. If MJ has lost one finals, are we going to put him in the same pedestal as we do of him of winning 6 out of 6, or if he won 7 out of 8, or possibly even just 6 out of 8? I do not know. Would we hold him in a higher regard if he would have lost one of those NBA finals against the Rockets? And here's the other thing too. I mean, obviously, if he won 8 for 8, it's hands down. It's him. But what I'm trying to go ahead and share here is we have to really look into a lot of factors and not just go ahead and say, oh, they would have easily won 8 straight. And guess what? This is the reason why we play these games. I mean, who would have thought a hobbled Kawhi Leonard would have won an NBA championship for the Raptors? He was hobbled, and then KD went down. And that's the interesting about the Warriors, and maybe that's a different part of our story or of a different podcast. As great as Steph Curry and Klay Thompson is, I do not know how come when one of them is out, they can't get out of the hump and win it all. So that's a whole different story. We'll talk more about that. So these are my thoughts, again, from a chrono system of looking into things and identifying what happened with these games. So thank you for listening. Again, we're doing this live Wednesdays, Fridays at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. And we would love sponsors. And again, we are thankful to AAA Physical Therapy. It is a multi-awarded physical therapy practice here in Columbia, Howard County. And we provide telehealth services over there. So please contact 443-979-7171. And if you want to be a sponsor, feel free to contact us at 866-887-7821 or Manuel at topvirtualstaffing.com. So please subscribe and share Coach E's Mind Games. And we'll see you guys. And this is a reference for this session. Thank you and see you next week.
Thank you for watching, and I hope you found this video informational and educational. Please share our videos and subscribe to our channel. If not, my dad will not give me dessert.